Most people have something happen in their lower back sometime in their life. And for tango dancers and dancers in generally, lower back tends to be one of those hot spots that creates a lot of challenges. So we're going to talk about what are some of the most important aspects of anatomy that we need to know about the lower back in order to keep it safe. And then what kinds of things we can do in our dance that would condition and strengthen both the alignment that we need to have a strong back, as well as the tissue tone. We're talking muscle and connective tissue. What is the tone that we need to have in our body in order to support that healthy alignment? So today we start off talking a little bit about the anatomy. I want you to really have a nice grasp on what that means for you to have a stable lower back. So beginning with the most important piece of lower back, in my humble opinion, and that is a little bone that is called the sacrum. Now, the sacrum is actually called the sacred bone for a reason. The sacrum is such an interesting bone. And when we're talking about where is the main place where things are decided in the body in terms of how the alignment is going to go, some people might even call it the center. I would argue the sacrum is the bone that you're really talking about. You might have alignment set in other areas of the body to be pretty good, but if your sacrum is not aligned correctly, it's not going to be that effective. So the sacrum is really the bone that decides what happens below your pelvis and above. So it really is kind of the center point. Why is it so important? So let's first talk about what it is and where is it. So if you take your hand and place it at the base of your spine, you'll feel a flat kind of area right here. And that's basically where your sacrum bone resides. Now you'll feel, if you palpate a little bit with both of your hands at the back, you'll feel two kind of bumps that are sitting to the side of the center point here. Those bumps are your pelvic halves. So the sacrum sits between the two pelvic bones, and there's lots of tissue that keeps the pelvic pressure around the sacrum. And then the sacrum serves as the base for the rest of the spine. So in terms of the mechanical function of the sacrum, we're talking about forces that are coming up to legs, two architectural structures, and we are transferring that force into one line of gravity and gravitational relationships. So we're going from two to one, and all of that is happening through the sacrum. So having now this sense of where your sacrum is, let's talk about what it actually does for us. Now, this is where we're going to start talking about the spine. So I want you to touch your lower back and feel how there is going to be a curve. The curve goes in towards the front, towards your belly, and this curve is called lower dotic curve. So in terms of anatomy, our spine is made up of a series of curves. And here we are really looking at the first curve, which is that lumbar curve here. It's very important for us to have a healthy degree of curve, not too exaggerated and in either direction. So some people might have flatter lower body curves, so it might look like this for them. Some people might have a little bit exaggerated curve. It's going to depend kind of on your body. But everybody's going to have a degree of neutral curve that is going to be their most optimal place for transferring forces. What do I mean by that? If I were to pick up something heavy and move it to a shelf above me, or if I were to have to move a heavy object in front of me, my pelvic alignment and my alignment of my lower dotic curve in my lumbar spine, there will be a degree of that curve that's going to be optimal for me to be able to transmit force from the floor through my body. So how does it really relate to tango? Well, this is what we're doing in tango when we are connected with our partners. You can imagine your partner being another object in space that you are connected to. Sometimes you're going to be pushing against it, sometimes you're pulling against it, but either way, everybody's going to have this place where their lower back feels the most efficient, pain-free, and able to adapt to a lot of conditions. So let's get to work now. What I would like for you to do is grab a chair, and we're going to explore for you what is your natural neutral alignment of the spine. It's the best way to get a sense of this is sit on a chair that doesn't have a lot of cushion. So hopefully you have something like that. And what you want to do is sit on the chair and have your feet about, I would say a little bit wider than the hips for this. And the feet should be just slightly in front of the knees. And the first thing I want you to do is find what's called your sit bones, right? So the pelvic bones are going to sit on your chair, and the point where we feel that sharp sensation of the bones pressing into the chair, those are the bottom pieces of your pelvic bones. Now, I want you to begin to gently rock your pelvis back and forth. So as you're moving back behind your sit bones and then forward in front of your sit bones, see if you can really trace that journey from behind the sit bones, rising up on top of the bone and then going in front of it, and then going back. So really sensing where is it that the pelvic bones, the sitting bones are really pressing into the chair, and then at which point you're transferring your weight slightly beyond that location. And then now I want you to use your body sense and ask yourself what would be a place right in between these two extremes where you feel very centered. So let's go ahead and rock a few more times and begin to make your movement a little bit smaller and smaller until you feel you kind of arrive at this place of home. I just feel like this is it. I'm not working very hard in any direction, forward or back. The front body is just slightly toned to help keep the posture. The back body is a little bit engaged. I'm not really feeling any one direction taking over. Close your eyes. And just feel that space. You might take your hand and just kind of touch your back and feel the degree of curve that you have. You might touch your belly and just see if you can imagine the space between your hands, kind of the actual shape of the space in the cavity of your torso. Excellent. Good. And then open the eyes and bring your hands back. So you have now created an awareness of a place of a neutral curve in your spine. I want you to get to know this place. So your homework for the next 7 days until the next tutorial is to just really tune into this space throughout the day. Maybe when you're working at the computer, and from time to time you just say, okay, can I remember what it's like to have a neutral spine, lower back? I feel my sit bones, I'm right on top of them, and I'm just going to spend 10 seconds kind of feeling that space. See if you can recall this space when you're going out to a restaurant or maybe when you were driving. Actually, that's a great one to think about when you're driving, because a lot of times when we drive, we can't actually get to this alignment. So you might find your seats need to be adjusted to accommodate that. All right, now our task, once you have a sense of this, and you might be in the ballpark, don't worry about being perfect. We're just kind of like approximating that, right? Now, our job now is to learn to protect this alignment as we move the body in different directions. And we're going to start with some engagement of the core while we're sitting. So very simply, I want you to keep your alignment exactly the same. Go ahead and allow your spine to go back a little bit. I am going slightly behind my sit bones, but because I'm not allowing my pelvis to round, I'm now feeling work in the core. You want to be really mindful here that you're not distorting the angle of your pelvis. So everything now is kind of set in place. And now we're getting to know what are the muscles that help to protect this alignment. So here we are. We're holding it. You might be feeling a little bit of shaking. You might even touch different parts of your body, different areas of your tummy, and just see if you can feel the muscles that are actually helping you support this. See if you can feel the inner thighs are even actually helping here. Good. We're just going to be here for another 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Using the core strength, come up onto your sit bones. Settle and feel how your core can now relax a little bit, right? So notice there's a residual activity in your core here, and you're going to just kind of cultivate the awareness that there's always a little bit of action going on here in the core when we are upright. The only time that the core is not working is when we're lying down to sleep, right? So now let's go ahead very slowly, shift forward. We're shifting forward very slowly without changing the alignment of our spine. Good. Now holding here, not a lot of effort, but I want you to just kind of sense how your back muscles are kind of holding and helping you to align in this direction, helping you with your efforts, and holding here for 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Good. And then coming back. And again, feel this nice sense of center. Now you've activated the front line and the back line, and we're going to just sense the spine sitting right in between those two. Now, I encourage you to do this exact movement a couple of more times in each direction, holding for about 10 seconds, breathing and feeling it. But we're going to move on and we're going to do one more little exercise for today to really get you to feel the strength and the structure of your spine when it comes to the lower back alignment. We're going to take another view here of our chair. I'm going to come up and I'm going to stand in front of it. Now from here, once we're standing, let's go ahead and see if we can find the alignment of the pelvis. I'm going to soften the knees, feet, or hips width apart. Bring your hands to your hips and imagine you're now kind of sitting, your spine is sitting inside of a bowl, kind of like there's a tree right in the center of a bowl, a plant pot here. And we're going to tip that bowl forward and we're going to tip it back. So you see how I'm using my hands to help me feel this. I'm really trying to keep my spine out of this in terms of my upper spine. You see, I'm just thinking about the lower back articulating and my pelvis. Good. A couple more times here, and then we're going to begin to allow ourselves to make the movement a little smaller. Notice my knees are very soft. Make sure you keep your knees soft. So it's really nice to work on this level of isolation here. And then eventually find a place where you feel like, ah, yes, this is where my pelvis is weighted down nicely. You can bounce a little bit up and down. Have your hand on the belly here and really make sure you're still feeling the support of your core in the front. Good. And then our task is going to be to reconnect with exactly this feeling in the spine, in the pelvis, as we go into this next move. This is a variation of plank pose, and you're welcome to do this at the wall instead of the chair if the chair is too low. Come with your hands under your shoulders, and we're just going to walk back. So here I'm going to find my neutral spine and hold it here. And then see if I can articulate within that. I'm going to extend my pelvis forward, and then I'm going to roll it back. Ooh, so much shaking. Good. Extend it forward and pull it back. Really feeling how the core is helping you to control this movement. Forward and back. Whew. Let's do one more. Forward and back. Good. And then step forward and come up. Whew, well done. So you should be feeling a lot of heat on the body, especially around your core. So what is the lesson that I'm leaving you with today? That is that whenever you're thinking about having good posture, dancing in tango requires good posture. We want to think about keeping the lumbar spine protected. So whenever I am thinking about leaning my axis forward to take the embrace with the partner, whether it's following or leading, I'm always going to think about how can I use the muscles around my spine to protect. Okay, so something for you to chew on for the next few days. Let me know how it goes. Let me know if there's any questions or things that don't make sense. I'm going to see you next week for some more exercises and ways that we can integrate this knowledge into our tango dancing. Thanks so much for joining, and I'll see you next week. Ciao!